Out of all the lenses I ever used, I finally found a lens that I can actually recommend to pretty much everyone. It's sharp, lightweight, weather resistant, quick to focus, has a function button, pulls flares well, internal zooming, and on top of all that, it's actually affordable. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a pro, a photographer or videographer, shoot full frame or APS-C. This lens is so versatile, it has something for everyone. And this lens will grow with you no matter where you are in your photography journey. This is the Tamron 17-50 f4 lens, which is an extremely interesting focal length. Originally, I thought this was an APS-C lens, but to my pleasant surprise, it's actually a full frame lens, which makes this lens replace the need of having to have a dedicated wide angle lens, but also doubles up as a pretty good normal range lens too. Now, if you're a beginner photographer shopping for your first lens ever, this lens has to be on your radar. This is basically just a 24-70 equivalent on APS-C, which is a very traditional focal length range that tons of photographers use for all purposes. And then when you're ready to jump to a full frame camera, there's no worrying, because this lens is going to work with your full frame cameras too. If you're already a full frame shooter, if you use this lens like the way I do, it's actually more like a 17-75mm lens. Now, if you're using a Sony camera, you can actually hotkey one of your programmable buttons to be APS-C mode. This will toggle a 1.5 times crop when you need the extra reach, and you can turn this on and off on the fly. Now, when you use this mode, you are going to lose some resolution, which is not really a huge deal anymore since every camera manufacturer seems to just be adding more and more resolution to their cameras anyway. And this still works with any video modes without any issues or loss in quality. Also, if all your buttons are somehow already occupied, don't worry, because this lens has a button right here for you. The performance of this lens is really good too. It has beautiful rendering and colors, which kinda has a filmic feel to it. Now for $700, it's not gonna be the sharpest lens ever, but it holds its own very well throughout the entire focal range. We're talking 90 to 95% of the performance of those G Master lenses. For me personally, I don't think this really matters a whole lot, especially in this day and age, unless you're one of those really crazy pixel peepers. Almost 99% of the time, no one's really going to be able to tell a photo from this lens from a G Master or an R series lens. Besides that, this is an f4 lens, which is going to have some bokeh limitations to it. But I'll touch base on that a little bit later in this video. Now, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of the technical performance of this lens, but just know on the widest end of this lens, it's going to have a bit of barrel distortion and vignetting. This is cleaned up easily enough with correction profiles and isn't very noticeable on the telephoto end. If you're an APS-C shooter, you're not going to notice any of these fall-offs because this usually happens on the corners of the lens. It also has Tamron's second generation G2 coating, which is also really good for resisting flares. Now for any videographers and YouTubers out there, this is going to be a powerhouse of a lens. It's lightweight and has internal zooming, meaning if you're a gimbal shooter, you actually never have to rebalance it when you're using the zoom range. To boot that off, it has pretty marginal focus breathing. It's also weather sealed, so if I get caught out in the rain, I know I'm going to be okay. And unlike all my other lenses, 17mm is actually wide enough for me to shoot in my car, so I don't need to carry a separate lens just for that anymore. If you're a Sony shooter, with clear image zoom, you can effectively make this lens into a 17 to 100mm lens, which is a ludicrous range, and I can shoot 99% of my shots with this one lens. Anyhow, that's just how I like to use this lens personally, and how much potential can come from this single lens. As you can see, this lens has pretty much something for everyone, no matter the use case. Now, the only thing that might make this lens not right for you is that you need a 2.8 aperture or faster. Because it's an f4 aperture, it's actually extremely lightweight in comparison to f2.8 lenses. You see, versus my 14 to 24 f2.8 lens, this is nearly a third of the weight. Also, on the wider end of focal lengths, bokeh becomes increasingly less noticeable. Shooting at 17mm, you can see that the Sigma at 2.8 isn't that much more different than the f4. And at 50mm, f4 bokeh is actually pretty decent. But obviously, if you need that better low light performance, 2.8 zooms or faster are gonna win here. Now, luckily for you, Tamron has a smaller and lightweight 20 to 40mm f2.8 lens for full frame. That's just as affordable as this lens. However, for APS shooters, I wouldn't recommend that lens because that would be a 30 to 60mm lens, which is a bit too tight and probably won't be very ideal to use. For people in this case, I would actually recommend Sigma's 18 to 50mm f2.8 lens. Just know it's an APS-C lens, which means it won't fully work on full frame cameras, if you so decide to upgrade in the future. Now, if you're still looking for a wider lens than this, you should check out my video where I talk about the widest and weirdest lens I own, an 11 f4.5 lens that basically can be tossed into any camera bag. Anyways, if you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you can give this video a like, and if you want to stay in touch for future videos, don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, ciao.